Well, why don't we keep going? Will, do you want to talk through what you guys are up to?
Yeah, sure. A few different things. Probably the one that's top of mind is getting more spatial audio or immersive audio experiences to people. Right now, if you have tons of speakers in a great living room with a good connection and you're watching some high quality content in its original language, you get that experience. And that's obviously a very limited set of people. So we're looking at a lot of the buzz around a lot of new audio technology hardware that's out there, as well as taking advantage of existing hardware to bring those same kind of really immersive mixes into earphones and laptop speakers and things like that. But there's another side of it behind the scenes where we're trying to build out the studio infrastructure to actually get more of that content created. So kind of an easy one is that dubbed audio is often gets kind of second shrift to what the director intended for the original audio mix. And so there's a huge inefficiency in the amount of work it takes to make those really big mixes for 10 languages that you're dubbing into. So these are some of the things that we're looking at to try to bring more content as well as content to more people. And those two things multiply each other to bring a lot more immersive experiences to Netflix folks.
That's exciting. Well, I'm going to take 1 minute to backtrack. Audio's back, so everybody can hear us. But I think the audience was able to hear Will's portion at the first time. So welcome, everybody. This is the panel on the importance of audio, as we've had a good real-life example of it. I'm your host, Aynechi. I lead the Facebook Live product team, and we're excited here to be here with Ioannis from Facebook, Alejandro from Google, and Will from Netflix. We'll continue the panel. Alejandro, I'm going to come back to you and let you talk about your work again. But Ioannis, let's go to you next to talk about what Facebook is working on in terms of audio. And you're on mute.
I know. That's what I was about to say. That's my fault. You can blame me for that. All right. So yeah. So what I want to say is that for us, audio is a relatively audio-only product. Is a new venture. And we're really scaling now as much as we can to more and more users. And ideally, we want to cover every possible environment, every connection, every device, every type of content. So that's really our maximizing the reach and the user experience is our #1 target and goal here. We obviously care about the transparency and the really immersiveness of the people who are participating. And we are doing our best to eliminate the usual suspects like stalls, interruptions, etc. So that's really top of mind. And at the same time, we see some of the learnings we get from the video audio products, such as how important is loudness normalization play a key role in these audio only products. And therefore, we really feel that audio should be really the one that connects people, that should really give that connection feeling that sometimes get lost, especially when you have the video aspect and it gets frozen. We really hope that the fluidity of audio will come in and play. These are my quick thoughts, Mana. Back to you.
That's fantastic. Alejandro, can you share with us what you're working on?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll recap what I said. I think what I was saying is Google worked on many or released many audio-focused products during the pandemic, all the way from hardware, like the Nest Audio smart speaker that had premium audio quality, all the way to feature dumps in Google Meet that focused on audio as well, that allowed us to keep up with the current new ways of working and studying during this pandemic, which is remotely, like things like captioning and other like host controls, etc. But focusing on the things that I actually know about, which is audio coding, what our team does. We've been working to increase or improve our audio codec Lyra, which to improve not only the quality, but also the computational complexity. So today, Lyra at 3 kilobits per second achieves quality similar to Opus at 8, which is a little bit more than 2x bitrate reduction, while at the same time being able to run on a mid-range smartphone in real time. So, but I think the big milestone that I want to mention for us was open sourcing the C++ code. We think interoperability is the way to go. And we want to enable like everyone to have a high quality audio experience, regardless of the network conditions, but also regardless of the app of choice of communication. So I encourage everyone to check out the code, Lyra code, and tell us what you think.
Fantastic. Thank you. A quick follow-up to that. So based on some of the investments that your companies and your teams are making, what are some of the early learnings and follow-ups that you're having? I mentioned one on live audio rooms, which I'm noticing that the conversations can be actually more engaging and deeper, and often they go over and they're much longer than even planned because the audience is so engaged. And I see that people are more comfortable coming on stage and participating because, again, there isn't that stress of a video. Any thoughts to share? We can throw it back to Will.
Yeah, I think the big learning that we've been grappling with the last year or so is that there's really not a one size fits all for the way people prefer to consume audio. One kind of recent example is we're looking at preferences about binauralizers, about taking the higher order audio and for headphones, and we kind of thought the hypothesis was that there would be some great solution and it would sound great and people would prefer it, and that just wasn't true. And it wasn't, and some people preferred it, some people disliked it, preferred the kind of the traditional way. And we're finding that more and more that there's a lot of individual differences that based on content, based on person, based on, you know, how they're listening. And so we found this to be true also for playback speed and audio video trade-offs. There's just not one right answer. So I think the thing that we're interested in is understanding those individual differences rather than kind of the trends of a population of people, and being able to offer that choice in our product rather than a winner take all type of solution.
Interesting. Alejandro?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a great point that Will made about one size does not fit all. I think us, when open sourcing our codec, open sourcing Lyra, we learned many things, but I think one of the things was, for instance, that it needs to work for everyone, and not everyone has the same device. So not only is the quality important, but also the computational complexity is very important to be able to have everyone, regardless of device, to be able to run or take advantage of this lower bitrate coding. Another learning that we had that is also in that vein is that while Lyra only targeted low bitrate, like 3 kilobits per second, we realized that that's not good enough, and we need to actually expand to a range of bit rates to be able to support all kinds of use cases. Some people have more bandwidth available to be able to send higher quality audio. And so with that, we started working on SoundStream, which is our improved engine for Lyra. That we released a paper that showed that we SoundStream at 3 kilobits per second could be compared to Opus at 12, which is a 4x bitrate reduction, while significantly reducing computational complexity compared to our first version of Lyra. So that's a win-win situation. And also because of their residual vector quantization architecture, it is a native way to scale the bitrate as well to the desired bitrate. So in general, I think it's a win-win situation regardless of where you look at it. And we're currently working on integrating that into the Lyra C++ API to release it to the open source as well.
Nice. Ioannis, how about Facebook?
I was about to go into...
Meta, sorry.
Yeah, so before I go into that, I just want to jump to and use what Alejandro talked about. Alejandro, you said 3 words that I really love. You said vector quantization, you said low computational complexity, and you said open source. So I cannot really, other than jump, right? So even though I'm going to wear my video pixels hat for a moment and say, because of my involvement with AOM and SIWG, I'm a strong believer that that's really what the industry needs today. Whether it's audio or video, we need it. So really kudos to you, the team, for really setting these North Stars. Now back to what were our sort of learnings and teachings. I can say I'll start by number 1. Audio really matters, okay? Let me say it one more time. Audio is really, really important. We've seen it through a ton of metrics, right? People really like what they're seeing. They're more engaged with our platforms when we really make the effort to offer higher quality. That's really what I would pick as number one. Now, equally important, it is actually not only from the consumer, but also for the creator, right? The creator, when the creator sees that their work is really respected, coded, transcoded, and transmitted in as high quality as it can be, they like the platform, they engage with the platform, and they really believe in the platform. So our own credibility is increased and keeps increasing as Meta now because of our investment in audio. And finally, on again, a footnote on that loudness normalization, I know Will in particular, and Netflix has led the way maybe a year ago, Will. Loudness normalization matters. And I think users like that consistency when they are, moving from one video to the other or one audio to the other. They really like to have that consistent behavior. And by the way, it is a really hard problem to solve at scale. So these are our initial thoughts here.
Very nice. Well, a good segue now maybe to my next question, which is we've had years of learning, investing in video streaming. What are some of the learnings that are transferring to audio that you're seeing happen right now? Ioannis, maybe we'll bring it back to you.
I'll take it first since I come from more of a video background. Yeah, I mean, by the way, we've learned video streaming, allow me to say, by assuming that audio is sort of a constant, right? Video was the one that was either sacrificed or, improved, while the conventional wisdom said audio should say. I believe we should go past that, and we're getting past that, where audio receives its own ABR treatment, right? And I think that's now a next big challenge. How do you do it so that you don't annoy people? So I would say, as bandwidth changes for example, the audio on your products, you need to be very smart in adapting. I would like to know more about, and I promise to read more about Lyra, Alejandro, to know about what its adaptivity, and more important, what does the transition look like? Because really, it's the transition that people care, right? Not so much a steady state. So that's my key takeaway. And in the meantime, if you cannot really do, let's say, a very smart ABR, you should be very smart in your IBR, your initial bitrate, right? So you better get that initial estimation. And that's, I think, the two learnings that I believe carry over from the video domain.
Very cool. Will?
Yeah, Yanni kicked it off nicely. A couple of years ago, we introduced adaptive bit rate for audio for kind of our 5.1 and our Atmos streaming, which is great because we could really bring like very close to perceptually lossless content for the very high end of the scale. I think the real meat on the bone is at the low end of the scale. Alejandro, I'm sure has a lot to say on that, but we're also really enthusiastic about the trade-offs between audio and video at the very low end of the scale, especially in relationship to kind of all the success that we've had using the VMAF video quality score to set bitrate ladders rather than like a kind of a bit rate or something like that. We really want to transfer that to the audio side too, and then the extra hard problem of how they work together, I think, is the real golden goose that we'd like to get to.
Nice. Alejandro?
Yeah, I think that's all very interesting. Maybe switching gears a little bit, one thing that I can add to how audio can learn from video and maybe from image processing in general as well is we work where I've been talking about like the generative models and general model based things like codec in our case, but in general processing. And like a lot of the fundamental machine learning research has initially applications in image processing. Some examples, for instance, our first generative model that we used in Lyra that we now switched to a more cheaper and performant one, but like the first one was WaveNet that initially was inspired by Pixel CNN, which is obviously an image application, even down to like the basic building blocks like convolutional layers or residual units that we use today in audio as well. And like adversarial losses like GANs, that was an initial image application as well that with non-trivial work has been adapted pretty successfully to audio applications as well. These adversarial losses are, for instance, ones that we use to train our new SoundStream engine. So like there are direct applications there. But I want to say it's also like a virtuous cycle. As much as image learns from video or can take inspiration from video and image. Sorry, I don't know what I said. Audio takes inspiration from video and image. Also, there's certain things unique about audio. Particularly, well, not unique, but like one thing about audio that can be transferred directly to video is like the time dimension, and having to take into account that these models or algorithms that we develop have to be streamable. So that's something definitely that a lot of times is seen in like initially in audio research that can be directly applied also to video. So I think it's a virtuous cycle where we hopefully all get to be inspired by each other and learn from each other.
That's great. Well, we'll move on to our last question of the panel. I'm curious to get the panelists' thoughts on the evolution of audio codecs. Where do you see the next 5 years going? Alejandro, you hit on this a bit already with all of your work, but maybe we can go a little bit deeper. Who'd like to go first? Jump in.
I can continue
maybe
talking since I was already talking about coding quite a bit. So, well, if you ask me where audio coding is going, I will have to answer that machine learning and particularly end-to-end systems are the future. That is where we are betting, at least. So the trend that we see right now is that these new generative models and end-to-end systems allow us to reduce bitrate significantly while maintaining high quality. Hopefully this trend will continue, reducing the bitrate. Obviously, there are some theoretical limits, like around the rate of speech itself, like around 100 bits per second. But until then, we can start to try to squeeze as much out as we can. And reducing bitrate while maintaining quality is not only about having or being able to transmit on lower bandwidth networks. It's also about what we do with that bitrate we're not using. In that place, we can add redundancy and make codecs more robust to other network issues like packet loss, for instance. And so I think the idea is the future is high quality, very robust to any kind of network audio communications, like audio coding, and that. We see already that the models are becoming cheaper. For instance, SoundStream is not only higher quality, but also cheaper than our first version of Lyra. So we see models becoming cheaper. And at the same time, we see specialized hardware getting into the battery-powered devices like phones for machine learning. So I think that will enable the new generation of audio coding. And maybe if I can add one little trend that I find interesting is the integration of other processing to the codecs. In our SoundStream paper, we also talk about integrating denoising or enhancement into the same model, the coding model. And we've shown that can increase quality, obviously, but at the same time reduce bitrate slightly. So it's a win-win situation again. But I think it even goes beyond that, because once we start integrating other components to this one coding or communication model, if we want to call it, then we can think about all the models that we can drop, all the other denoisers in the system and other enhancement components that we can drop. That not only reduces computational complexity, but also the general, the whole delay of the system. So yeah, I think that's another direction audio coding is going. But yeah.
Thank you. Will, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm also really enthusiastic about a lot of the new codec developments, especially in the royalty-free domain. Any royalty-free codec means that we can reach more devices and more people, which is just great for everyone. But also at the same time, the MPEG codecs and the Dolby codecs still have the richest feature set for personalization and the best device reach. So they're going to be with us for a little while. But the ecosystem problem is kind of a layer higher than Alejandro's, and this is one that we wrestle with. I think at the moment, we would love to be able to have that, bring royalty-free codecs to everyone. At the same time, we need to be able to offer that super premium audio experience. So we're it's kind of a two-pronged approach from the Netflix perspective.
Makes sense. Ioannis, bring us home.
Yeah, so I may slightly disagree with Alejandro, even though I fundamentally agree on the necessity and the importance of both achieving, obviously, this is the holy grail, right? 100 bits per second, that's the true information that speech has. Let's do it. My biggest concern about going a little bit wild on, for example, including deep nets or nets that require, even though you did qualify, we need computationally cheap, but my fear is that we can leave behind older devices, right? So if in 5 years we have the great, call it Lyra 3.0, 4.0, and that will only benefit the newer devices, right? The devices that have the necessary dedicated hardware. How good is that for the ecosystem, right? It means we're going to create tiers of customers. So I really encourage the researchers. I'm not a researcher in the core field of audio coding, so I trust you and the team and others to do the right thing, to really focus on keeping the pool as wide as possible. These are my first and most important thoughts. I don't think we fundamentally disagree. Maybe we just view the thing from a different angle. I personally think, and please feel free to jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, that the evolution or the improvement of audio codecs relies heavily on a much trustable quality metric. I personally feel that once video quality metrics mature to the point that the VMAFs and the SSIMs, multi-scale SSIMs are more trustworthy, codec research used it to measure. We saw a couple of excellent presentations earlier, on SVT81 and Eve and others, and even before that by Google and by Apple on newer and better quality metrics. So I'm really hoping that while we are pushing the core compression, at the same time, we also work jointly to improve and nail that much desired audio quality metric, which I think is a sort of a prerequisite. This allows you to be very analytic and get the result you want. Last but not least, I think that, yes, I do agree. Lowering 8K to 3K is very, very important. I mean, I cannot really overstate it, but at the same time, I think the arena is shifting, at least the way we see it as a company. It is shifting to immersive audio, where you don't necessarily have only one or two, you have potentially multiple sources of audio. So I would say, again, depends how you structure your system, whether you do server-side rendering and you send always 2 channels, right, to your earbuds, or you really send immersive information. I personally think that focus in the next few years could or should be on multi-channel, more efficient, object-based, perhaps neural network-based, but still multi-channel, object-based coding, I hope will be the next frontier. These are my thoughts, Mana.
I love it. Well, we certainly know that audio quality matters. So thank you. I think, Ioannis, were you about to say something else?
No, I'm not sorry for our closing, but I just want to make sure, because sometimes it slips my mind, that I really want to say a big thank you, not only to my fellow panelists and you for moderating, but also to a whole lot of people here in our team, here at Facebook, who really are the real people behind the scenes who do all the work. I'm just like the talking mouth here, but no, seriously, of all the people, I really want to say a big thank you to my colleague and friend, Zach Cohen, who has been diligently working to enable all these experiences on the back end. Thank you, Zach. Thank you to the whole team.
Thank you. Any other closing thoughts from the panelists as we wrap up?
Thank you, Mana. It was nice seeing all of you.
Yeah, maybe my closing thought is I fully agree with Ioannis that we need to make sure that it works for everyone and have low complexity coding so that we don't leave behind anyone. But besides that, I fully agree with that. I also want to thank the fellow panelists and you, Mana. Thank you very much for having us.
Well, thank you all for joining us today. This is a great conversation. Thank you for the audience and everyone for rolling with the punches with us with our small glitch. But it's been a great conversation, and I look forward to seeing all the great work that's about to come out from all the companies.
Maybe next year, audio at scale. Okay, audio at scale.
There we go.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a great day.
all the great details about developments in encoding itself. And then we just, as you guys saw, had the awesome panel about audio, where we showed you firsthand just how important audio is to media experiences. Thanks everyone for their patience on that. And a big thanks to Mana for hosting the panel and to our great panelists. Also, a huge thanks to all of our speakers from today and also those from day one for volunteering to share their learnings and preparing some excellent talks for all of us to learn from. Also, a big thanks to all of you in the audience who submitted questions for all of our Q&A sessions. Without your participation, sounds like there's maybe no audio on me right now. Is that true?
You're good.
I'm good. Thanks to all these people who submitted the questions. Without your participation, we would not have had such an awesome and interactive experience with the fully remote conference setup. And thanks to everyone else in the audience for joining us for this year's Video at Scale 2021. I'm Madar Solanki. Have a great rest of your day.